Good evening, FanDuelers. How's everything going? Uh, Hope everybody on FanDuel is having a good night. Hope everybody who ever watching this video is having a good night. This is part two of the Week 7 preview. I did part one last night real late, or pretty much early in the morning. Pretty much went to bed just after doing that. You know, informative video. Hope everybody's enjoying tonight's two-game slate. If you are playing on the basketball slate, me and some partners did win some tickets for this event. I got 9 tickets. I had another friend of mine who watches who watches this channel has 15. So we're just hoping to cash out 100% ROI. Whatever we get is what we get. Didn't put no money into this. Whatever satellites we got is what we're using. So I think the Celtics game had just finished. I think they won by 8 or 10. I definitely liked what I just saw at the end. Tobias Harris got a steal and a dunk, so that's like 5 points for him right there. I got Tobias on a few lineups, so that looks good for me going into the last game. Other than that, though, first off, before we continue to review, let's get into more news and the continuation of last night. As I said, if anybody did pay attention and watch that first video, yes, it does seem that the Carolina Panthers are in Utah Jazz mode, and they're looking to reset. There are rumors that so far there are rumors that the Eagles are showing interest in McCaffrey since they have a lot of offensive line depth, which is something that's not too common with most teams. Most teams have a big weakness when one guy from the starting five is off the line. The Eagles do have good practice squad guys and good depth, like immediately on the roster. So it seems like the Eagles are in minor talks. That's the main news. Eagles are in minor talks for talking to McCaffrey. And like I said, it's in 2 weeks, the trade deadline. So not week 7, week 8. And normally when it's the trade deadline, it's either week 8. It's after week 8, I think the Tuesday or the Wednesday, 4 o'clock is the trade deadline. Right now, no, I have not heard anything or seen anything about Melvin Gordon. Be aware of that. And right now, the main names that have just popped up now, I'm somewhat surprised about one name that I saw. Not too surprised about the other, with the weapons that they have now and the way they run their offense. I think there are talks that the Dolphins are looking to get Gesicki off the books. I mean, they have a very stellar wide receiver core, and they really the way they run their offense, it's not meant for a tight end. That's the kind of offense you need a blocking tight end, and he once in a while gets the ball. Gesicki's a good all around. I mean, he's a better receiver than blocking tight end, but the Dolphins are looking to shop Gesicki, and I was kind of surprised, but Claypool might be on the block as well from Pittsburgh. But those are preliminary news. Not too much on that, but the two strong ones are definitely McCaffrey. The news about the Eagles being interested, and obviously I talked about Akers yesterday and Gesicki today. So, and other than that, in other news, hey, Jamani, I love you, cause I know you show support. But I told your ass, the Ravens do not have a solid core of receivers. You know you don't have a solid core receiver if you're bringing Deshaun Jackson back into the fray, okay? He's not on the practice squad. They signed him, all right? So they're looking for some type. Look, Rashad Bateman is good, but when you look at that wide receiver core, it's better than the Packers wide receiver core, but it's not saying much. I'm sorry. I mean, when you think about that team, it's Lamar, and if Lamar can't get it to his tight end, Mark Andrews, that's going to be the downfall. They need better wide receiver talent. They do. They need to, by next year, they probably need to, having a running quarterback like that, you probably don't need the offensive line to be that good because he could escape whenever he wants, but he needs another wide receiver threat. Rashad Bateman right now would be a great number 2 to somebody's number 1. I don't know who they're gonna get, but they definitely need some help. And if you're signing Deshaun Jackson now, I mean, all he could do is still, without hurting his hamstring or whatever, go deep or whatever. And they already got kind of Duvernay for that, so I don't know. Ravens looking for a spark. Other than that, that's pretty much it. And let's get into this wide receiver Let's get into this wide receiver room. But like I said, I do like Rashad Bateman. I like Duvernay. Those guys, and Duvernay's been a while or whatever. But like I said, I didn't like the depth. I like Rashad Bateman as the pick, but the wide receiver core, he needs wide receivers. He needs wide receivers. And my first segue as a YouTuber. Speaking of wide receivers, let's go to the wide receiver slate. You see how I did that there? Oh, I'm getting better at this. Okay, so the wide receiver slate for week 7. I mean, you got to start off with Devontae Adams. It's a good solid matchup against Houston. He'll be looking to bounce. Las Vegas will be looking to continue their success lately. Now, the success lately has been coming from the ground, but Devontae is not going to stay quiet forever. So 8,600 is not a bad way to start. There's a lot of big dogs out, so the highest wide receiver to not be at 80, to not be at over 9,000. I mean, there's a lot of prices, a lot of people all jammed up around the same place, but with wide receiver, it does get a little, there's a bit of a gap. You're about to find out right now. After Adams, you go 100 less. Jamar Chase against Atlanta, one of the bottom 5 pass defenses, so it's definitely a good look there. After 8,500, you drop down to 78. You're pretty much dropping down $700. Mike Williams against Seattle. Mike Williams got shut down by Patrick Surtain. He's looking to bounce back against, which is somewhat a decent fantasy productive defense in the Seattle Seahawks. But stat-wise, Mike Williams will be bouncing back. When it comes to fantasy and you got a boom-bust guy like Mike Williams, after the game that he had against Denver, look, he's definitely someone that I'll be looking at, because when you boom-bust, you bust like how he did. I think when he had like 3 receptions for under 20 yards, look for him to bust and get at least 1, maybe even 2 deep ones on Seattle. Definitely look out for that one. Like I said, one of my favorite games this week, especially if Dak is back. CeeDee Lamb is at 7,700, home against Detroit. You got Debo. It's going to be a competitive game there. They're going to need him a lot. He's going to get a lot of opportunities against Kansas City. Home against Kansas City, 7,700. Mike Evans. Like I said, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to be 2 guys that I'm looking at to make a comeback. Like I said, Carolina's in a big reset. You've heard me say this. Carolina's a mess. And now it's true. I said it weeks ago before this trade. They look like a mess. Nothing was looking right. I did say this. If you remember some of my earlier videos, in like week 3 or 4, I knew they were a mess. And now they're just in straight Utah Jazz free-for-all. Hit the reset button. It's pretty much over for them. Carolina might be lucky if they win 5, maybe 6. 5 or 6? 6 sounds like too much. They might be lucky if they win 5. You know you're doing bad when you're hoping Sam Darnold gets better. Just saying. I'm just saying. Like I said, Michael Pittman. Tennessee is the worst pass defense. That is a very young defensive backfield. Y'all hear me talk about Washington's defensive backfield. Michael Pittman is definitely looking to keep pushing and continue his recent success at 7,500. Amon-Ra St. Brown, all healthy, no type of injury designation at all, at Dallas. The only thing you got to worry about that, though, is can they protect Goff enough before that Dallas defense? Because when it comes to fantasy defense in the last 2-3 weeks, that Dallas defense has been great in creating turnovers and opportunities. So can they pick off Goff? Goff is the type to throw at least 1 interception a game, not a pick 6 like Matthew Stafford. But if they can't protect that edge, look for Amon-Ra St. Brown's numbers to go down, and you might want to look at the tight end Hawkinson. We'll get the tight ends next. Just a little fantasy strategy. If you want to outthink the people who's going to go for Amon-Ra St. Brown, if they can't protect Goff might need a couple of 5 to 7 yard button hook in, button hook out for TJ Hawkinson. Like I said, I've always said this through fantasy. Once again, I'll reiterate. He still has a Q tag. Do not be surprised. He's been out for a bit. Would I be surprised if he plays? No, because he's had this hamstring injury for a while. But Keenan Allen at 7,300, like I said, if they could get their main slot guy and possession receiver, and man, Keenan Allen is probably my favorite play at 7,300. He could instantly come back ready to go and get anywhere from 5-7 receptions, get 78 yards and a touchdown. The thing is, like I said, I've seen it a lot and it has happened. Once again, I will reiterate, if they want to make sure this thing doesn't linger throughout the season, don't be surprised if the Chargers hold out Keenan Allen for 1 more week, because he'll get the extra week after. Their bye week is next week. I understand that fantasy players will probably want to do play Keenan Allen, but his bye week is next week. Just be leery of that. Can you do preliminary lineups? Yes, and then you could change your lineup. But just be wary of that. Be wary that they can hold him out for one more week. After that, we'll go down next to Amari Cooper for 7,200. Very productive. He's him and David, another wide receiver and tight end combo. Him and David Njoku have been pretty productive. It seems like they're kind of productive on opposite weeks. There's been a week or two that they both have been fantasy relevant, but normally it's one or the other with, a big heaping of Nick Chubb. Next big play, or next nice play that I like to talk about will be T. Higgins, home against Atlanta. Like I said, with the Jamar Chase lineup, he's 7,100. If we're going to keep going down, like I said, Chris Godwin's at 7,000, Cortland Sutton's at 7,000, DJ Metcalf's at 69, going against LA. So, like I said, a lot of, and then his teammate Tyler Lockett 68 going at Los Angeles. Both, that's a game where I don't think one really outdoes the other. When I mean one outdoes the other, it's normally Lockett getting 6 for 112, while Metcalf gets 5 for 60 or 5 for 50. No, that's a game that. Well, let me go into this and say this. With the free agency moves, with the quarterbacks, everybody was hyping up the AFC West. I was too. But even though me being a Bronco fan, the one thing I kept telling people was, isn't anybody paying attention to like the defense of like the Chargers, whatever? And that's what I said at the beginning of the season. You got Mac there. You signed a few guys in the defensive backfield, Bosa. Now, they're underperforming. Bosa's still dinged up. If Bosa is not there, all I'm saying is Geno Smith, just as mobile as Russell Wilson, probably even more light-footed and quicker. Russell Wilson, mobile. Geno Smith, mobile, but faster. He can scramble, and he can find both Lockett and Metcalf. Because one of the disappointments this year, real football-wise, not fantasy, definitely San Diego. And if Bosa's still out for another week, definitely, that looks like my favorite double stack. Not skinny stack. You can actually go Geno and then afford two guys that are both under 7,000. That's a stack. It's not you have like the one expensive guy 8,000 and the other guy like in the mid sixes. No. This ain't like how Mike Evans is pricing and Chris Godwin's at 7,000. No. You got two guys both under 7,000, definitely in the same range. So just a bit of advice and a little in look on how that game could go. That's a definitely good double stack. And if you do want to, you can probably come back with Keenan Allen. All those guys are about the same way within the same game. Let's go down a little bit here on a few more of my favorite plays. The team's in disarray, but we're talking about fantasy points here. And for 6,600, he could easily pay off his price because right now he's really the most comfortable that he feels like throwing to. Aaron Rodgers to Allen Lazard. Once again, I've told you in the beginning of the season, one of my favorite defensive backfields to attack. Green Bay is at Washington. Allen Lazard is at 6,600. And then if we keep going down, one of my favorite plays damn near every week because of his targets and because he is the man on the team. We got Brandon Cooks at Las Vegas, 6,300. Jerry Jeudy at that's just me listening to the background. I got the TV a little bit loud listening to the trophy presentation. Those are always cool. No matter if your team wins it or not, those are always cool to at least listen and, check out or whatever. The banner presentation for the Golden State Warriors. Jerry Jeudy at 6,200. Terry McLaurin at 6,200. That's going to be interesting because he gets Taylor Heineke this week. Carson Wentz has a finger injury. I'm a fan of Heineke. Heineke can produce. He's had a few relevant fantasy weekends. He's just not some budget guy that you're like, he's just going to give me 15, 16. No, Heineke he could have weeks where 15, 16, 17 is his floor. Now, he's not going to boom for 30. That's not what he's going to do. But Taylor Heineke could definitely give you a 21 to 24 kind of day against a struggling Green Bay team in general. And plus, it feels better that they're at home instead of, being at Green Bay. But like I said, they're not playing that well. Alec Pierce Once again, you're not gonna get him cheap no more. He's not gonna be in the 5,000 no more. He's now at 6,100. He's been most productive in the slot, and he caught a touchdown last week running. I think he ran like a in and out route or whatever, and caught one deep for about like 33 yards last week. So, and Indy's throwing the ball now. Indy's throwing the ball a lot because Jonathan Taylor's not there. They threw the ball a whole bunch last week. I think Matt Ryan had 58 attempts because not only was Taylor not there, Naheem Hines wasn't there, and during that game, Deion Jackson went off. Deion Jackson got hurt. So, bottom line is, if Jonathan Taylor's not there, I don't know if he's going to throw it 58 times, but against Tennessee, he could probably get away with throwing it maybe 30 to 40 sometimes. It's still a 35 to 40. It's still a lot, but I don't think he's throwing 58. That's almost 60 attempts. But if Jonathan Taylor's not there, Alex Pitts has a bigger floor than what you think he's going for 6,100. He has mid 7,000 upside going against Tennessee's bad defensive backfield. We'll keep going. Michael Gallup, he could probably have his first big game against Detroit once again. That is home against Detroit, which is pretty much overall the worst defense. I think overall they're not the worst in fantasy, surprisingly, but they're the when it comes to statistics overall, yeah, they're giving up a lot points and yardage. 6,100 for Gallup. Drake London. I'm just gonna mention him. He's definitely not gonna be one of my favorite plays. Kind of dudded the last 2 weeks, but hey, Drake London's way too talented, so I think have a third straight week as a dud. 6,000. All you need is really a touchdown. If you can't get a touchdown out of him, I think you're fine having him in a cash game, and he can give you 6 for 79 if he gets the opportunities. But lately, Mariota has been doing a lot, not even attempting more than 20 attempts. He's been running the ball a lot, so that's why Mariota most likely probably is a good one-off. Mariota's not even worth stacking right now, which is also bad news for Pitts, even though Pitts finally got his first touchdown last week. The end of that trio, Tyler Boyd at 6,000, Duvernay 59, but now you got Deshaun Jackson in there. And then after that, I guess you could look at, people like Zay Jones. Keep an eye out for Joshua Palmer. Once again, if Keenan Allen sits, Joshua Palmer 5,700. Hunter Renfrow with the whole Devontae and everything going. But I think Hunter Renfrow will definitely have one of his bounce back games, whatever hasn't had it yet. Since the concussion, we still have, I think Wallace still dealing with his hamstring or whatever. So I don't think it wouldn't be that bad to look at Renfrow for 5,700. And then you just got a whole bunch of guys 55. You got the Curtis Samuels against Green Bay at 55. I mean, I guess he's still reliable because of all his targets. DJ Moore going against Tampa Bay, they're a pass funnel because you can't run against them. Yeah, there's not really much here to really look at. I really don't like anything down here. Hey, Lucky, you see this? See how I'm clicking? Know how I'm not saying nothing? Boom. Let's go to tight end. Okay. Tight end. You're either paying up or paying down. Listen to this price gap. Mark Andrews, home against Cleveland, 85. Travis Kelce, going to San Francisco, 83. George Kittle, 66. No tight end at 77. None. I get no tight end at 77. None. If I scroll down a little bit, you have to scroll down. Darren Waller's back at 6,000. And yes, he has the big fat Q tag looking right at me. After George Kittle, it's Gerald Everett for 63. Definitely look for him for a bounce back. I like picking him at 63. If you're not paying up at the tight end position for the two kings of the tight end position, then to me, I definitely like Kittle, Everett, Hockenson right there. 66, 63, and 62. I like those guys right there. Like I said, Hawkinson's going to be big if he cannot. Now, obviously, he could throw it out into the flat. So if Swift comes back, to Swift, Jamal Williams, whoever the case is. But if Golf can at least move, maybe step up or whatever, he's going to chuck it and force it. But look for Hockenson to get a lot more opportunities. I'm looking forward to Hockenson to have a bounce back. Kyle Pitts, 5,900. Njoku's another good play. If you're looking to get like for some salary savings, the first two people I'm thinking about is Njoku, Tanya 57 and 5500 respectfully, and who has been paying off his price because Daniel Jones looks for him a few times during the drive and looks for him in the red zone. If you haven't been paying attention, Daniel Bellinger, he has been clutch for his price. Bellinger just a couple weeks ago was 45, 47, 49. Now he's just over 51. He's fine for cash game savings. He's a good GPP play, so I think he could be played a lot. If you look at what he's done the last 2 weeks compared to what he's done since the beginning, his first game he didn't even get any action the first 2 weeks. Carolina was his first game. Yes, it was only one catch for 16 yards and a touchdown, but since then it's been 5 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets, and back up to 5 targets for 38 and a touchdown. And doesn't sound like much, but the last 2 games, his fantasy points have gone up. After having the one touchdown, we'll throw that away. 6 points, 3.8 points. The Green Bay game, 9.4 points. Baltimore game, 12.3. And those targets, yes, it's all about Saquon and the rookie wide receiver from the Giants slips my name, something Robinson or something like that. But Daniel Bellinger gets, most importantly, when you get those $5,000 guys that don't get many receptions or whatever, but they get a decent amount of targets, those targets are majority in the red zone. 5,100 pays off if he does what he did last week in Green Bay, 9.4 points for FanDuel. So I don't think you can go wrong with that, especially if he gets a couple more looks and a touchdown. If he gets another touchdown, then he definitely pays off regardless. Anybody under 6,000, once you in FanDuel, 59 and under, once you're that low, if you could get your touchdown or you get a decent amount of targets and can do something with it, like a 5, like I said, it's like my common line, 5 for 74, you're paying off. You did your job. You did your job. And let's round this up and let's get to the defenses. Like I said, every time I do defenses, I will go over, top ones, but my recommendation would be everybody from 4,000 and under. So, Tampa Bay, Carolina. Tampa Bay definitely does look like a $5,000 defense that's worth it. Mayfield throws interceptions. They do apply pressure. Carolina's a mess, man. Hit the red button. I mean, you can never go wrong with them fantasy defense-wise. Denver has a Super Bowl caliber defense, just that the offense is not doing nothing. 4,800. I'm surprised they're not 4,900. 4,800 if you're going to save like 200. Dallas has the opportunity to really get at Detroit. I actually like Dallas better than the other 2 teams that I just mentioned because they create more opportunity with the pick sixes, sacks, forced fumbles. 4,700. Right now, that's my favorite defense of the week. But like I said, they're above the 4,000 threshold, so we'll find a bargain. After that, other favorite defenses that I like, Jets are interesting at 4,300 at Denver, which is a bit of an issue, but the Jets have been playing well. The Jets are hot, and now Russell Wilson, not only is he dealing with the shoulder injury, one of those hits that he took last night, he's dealing with MRI, so a little hamstring damage. So now the mobility might be an issue. So Jets might, Jets don't create that many turnovers. Yes, they did get a block punt and everything like that. But they do have the opportunity to at least keep their score either in double digits or in high single digits. Like they could either go from 10 to 15 or they could go from 10 to 8 or 7 because Denver don't score. And if you get a couple of sacks too, keeps your defensive score right there. My next favorite play after that, you gotta like another hot team. You gotta like the way the Giants defense is playing. Giants at Jacksonville, 41. Now for my main section, for the defense under 4,000. Not much to pick, but I still see a couple of opportunities here. So when it comes to the 4,000 threshold, Raiders at home have, I guess, somewhat, like I said, not a juggernaut and everything, but you can go Raiders right at 4K. They're home against Houston. If I scroll down a bit, once again, LA is at home against Seattle. Seattle offense is pretty good and prolific this year. But if Joey Bosa or some of those guys can at least come back and they could play the solid defense that they played against Denver's defense, then, maybe create some Geno Smith turnovers. Los Angeles looks like a decent play. Let's go down a little bit more. I'm not going to list everybody. I'm just going to list the ones that I think that are pretty good. A struggling offense, you got to look at Washington. You have to look at Washington, even though I have ridiculed that defensive backfield. But the Green Bay offense, like Denver's, is struggling. So, Washington Commanders, 3,700. That's right now, I think, without even scrolling down, that might be my favorite play. Safe opportunity risk at 3,700, because as you go lower, you're risking some defenses here. If you keep going down, you could take a risk with Houston going at Las Vegas as well. Lovie Smith does coach up that defense and likes running the ball, so it could take some opportunities away from Carr and that powerful offense and Josh Jacobs. Like I said, Josh Jacobs running could feed right into that, because that's going to be less possessions. Sometimes you have to feed into that game script. So going both ways in that game defense-wise does make sense, because if you got the Raiders now running the ball, and if you got Houston that loves to run the ball, that's a lot of time running off the clock. And if you're worried about Houston giving up a lot of points or the big play to Las Vegas, running the ball eats up clock, and that's less opportunities for big plays. Do I say Houston picks off Derek Carr, does a whole bunch of other stuff, and gets a 15, 17, 16-point day? No. But if Houston could at least hold on to at least most of their fantasy points and give you a 6 or a 7, of course, you want a defense to score a touchdown. That's what helps you win GPPs. But hey, I'm trying to do my best to convince you guys what's good under the 4K range. I'm giving you a kind of game script that can happen. Two teams that are really running the ball well right now could take away from Devontae Adams, which beats those lineups. And hey, you're just pretty much playing what I think might be a safe defense. After that, I'm not going to lie to you. It sounds weird to say, but fantasy-wise, not real life-wise, but fantasy-wise, Seattle has been playing well. They are the bare minimum. Seattle I'm pretty sure it's the last 3 weeks. I'm gonna let this load, and maybe I'm right, but I think in the last 3 weeks, I think overall, but in the last 3 weeks, they've pretty much met their price. Let's see here. Okay, I was wrong, except for one, because Seattle's normally one of the bottom defenses every week. Okay, so the New Orleans game, that was just a shootout, and they still ended up somehow at 1 point because they got a fumble recovery, an interception, and a sack. But against Arizona, the game that everybody thought was the pivot from the Bills KC game, which wasn't the pivot, but they probably had one of the better defenses. They had 17 points. And when you think about their defense, let's go back to the beginning of the season. 7 against Denver, 9 against San Francisco, Atlanta 7, Detroit 7. You would think, listening to the name, but if you're not paying attention and looking at the stats, Seattle's a pretty good defense, and they're scoring to the point where they're not losing it for you. Remember, your defense starts with 10. And besides of 1 week, they're either going +7 or -2, -3, or 1. So for 3,000, you don't think that's great for a defense that's keeping you at 7 points, close to their original start point? I think that's great. I will be taking looks at Seattle. Big savings, because when you look, if you've heard, part 1 and now you're listening to part 2, not that much value. Not that much value. You're probably going to have to wait till later in the week to see if people are going to be either just ruled out as a healthy scratch, people are going to get traded, and if they get traded later in the week, they're not going to have time to suit up with their team. You're just going to have to wait for that. There's not a lot of value. You're just going to have to build the best lineup you can, and right now, I think I just gave you guys the best value. Seattle's defense. Besides 1 game, they're right there. Remember, they start at 10. This is 10. Seattle's done this one time, and every other week besides 1 week, they've done this. So for 3,000, that's exactly what you want. It's icing on the cake if they score a touchdown. But to hold the double digits or right there, Seattle's right now, Seattle's the best value on the slate. To me, Seattle's the best value on the slate. But yeah, that's the end of the week 7 preview. Definitely will have another video out. Like I said, as you can see, I have the time now, more focused, definitely more dedicated. I will have a week 7 sportsbook pick Grade A picks will be back and will finally make his return after what, a 2-3 week absence. And hopefully by then I have more news of any trade rumors, injury news, and stuff like that. So week 7 preview is done. Grade A fantasy is done for week 7. About to go enjoy this game and see how my FanDuel lineups are doing. And I'm getting ready to play the short slate tomorrow, 3-game in NHL. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, notification button. This is Grade A Fantasy. Signing off.